Good morning and welcome to another new week on P&B Sports Show. I'm Erica Tom and today we unpack two big Premier League results from the weekend, the fiery London Derby. Chelsea fought out a 1-1 draw with Arsenal at Stamford Bridge and a comeback from Manchester United who beat Crystal Palace 2-1 at Selhurst Park. Joining me to break both games down is one sharp analyst, and that's in the person of Wisdom, the principal thing from Lagos. Good morning and welcome, Wisdom.
Yeah, good morning, Tom. Happy New Month. Welcome to December. Yeah, so 2025 done and dusted.
Happy New Month. Happy New Month.
This morning, it's a great pleasure to be here to talk football as always.
Same here. Before the month runs out, we are going to be expecting our prayers from you.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start with Chelsea Arsenal. It seemed like a dream come true. It seemed like something that Chelsea have been waiting for a long time. And Arsenal, they fell short of it. They lost 2 points in that match. What's your first take on that match?
Well, I think you put it rightly. Arsenal, it was like 2 points dropped than a point picked, while it was the other way around for Chelsea picking up a point. Against them, men, you would expect that Arsenal that we knew this season should run riot against Chelsea, but kudos has to go to Chelsea for maintaining their shape and doing all that they could do right. For Mikel Arteta, first of all, I'm sure he's definitely not happy with that because that dropping of points has now seen their 6-point lead drop down to 5, and it's looking as though Man City is just getting closer. But if you look at the game in general, I would say in fact a lot of people would tell you Chelsea were the better team in terms of how they kept their shape, in terms of how they attacked the game, in terms of how they went about their business in the game. For Arsenal, they just couldn't take advantage of the game. And for Mikel Arteta, I'm even listening to his press conference. It's something that he was, definitely not happy about. But kudos has to go to Enzo Maresca really for, setting up his team nicely. That red card to Moses Caicedo, very early in the game, in the first half wasn't, and maybe not so early, but I mean it was around the 30-something minute he got the red card, yeah. But then it really changed, the approach of the game for both teams, for Arsenal and even for Chelsea. And the fact that Chelsea took the lead first against Arsenal again also showed the intentionality that Chelsea approached the game with. And for Arsenal, really, like I said at the start, it's more like 2 points dropped than a point picked. But for Mikel Arteta and Arsenal, they will be hoping to correct things. But this result, really, the happiest team, with this result has to be Manchester City. I mean, they are happy that Chelsea did not win the game, because if Chelsea had won the game, they would have gone back to second and they would have dropped to third. If Arsenal had won the game, Arsenal would have probably given Manchester City as much as a 9-point gap. So Manchester City are more like the biggest winners from this result.
Well, talking about, I think the biggest winners here, I think is really Manchester City and Chelsea, because Chelsea, they are 2 points up. But let's bring it back to Arsenal. Arteta's side, is this the beginning of what usually happens to Arsenal? Because we always know that usually Arsenal, they play very well. They do very well. Then somehow when it comes to January, they start falling short of what they were before January. But what do you think? Do you think it's too early to say that Arsenal have started falling short?
Oh no, of course. I mean, it is too early. This is just one game we're talking about. Yes, you might say, okay, it all starts with one game, from one game to two games and all of that. But no, I don't think it's a case of Arsenal faltering. First of all, we're talking about the Chelsea side that have been very impressive this season. All right. Okay, maybe not all that impressive because there are games you'd expect Chelsea to win and they would end up flopping, right?
Yes.
But I mean, they helped into that game. We're talking about the Chelsea side that has just trashed Barca 3-0 in the Champions League. You know, a Chelsea side that are scoring goals. I mean, it wasn't a game where you would say, oh, Arsenal was just going to come and walk over Chelsea. No, it wasn't going to happen. And it was also at Stamford Bridge. So you would expect, you know, Chelsea to put up a good fight. Chelsea themselves, you know, heading into the game, were on a good run of form. You understand? So it wasn't a case of oh, because Arsenal is doing very well, you would just expect Arsenal to come and ride over Chelsea. No, that wasn't going to be the outcome, of course.
Especially a Chelsea side that just had their way with a team like Barcelona. But compared to the way they played Barcelona, I think we saw a few changes. We saw that yes, they wanted a counter, but because they were 10 men down, we saw that they actually played very well. They played good defense. A lot of people were not expecting Chelsea to actually stay compact because usually what they do is anytime that they are one man down, they usually change tactics and that tends to affect them. But somehow they were able to maintain their style of play. And what do you think about this? Looking at them defensively from a defensive team, because to me they were absolutely fantastic playing defense.
Yes, they were absolutely fantastic, and it all boils down to, you know, game management by Enzo Maresca. That's why I said kudos has to go to Enzo Maresca. He did a very brilliant job, you know, in managing that game for Chelsea. And I mean, we have to mention Reece James. Reece James was absolutely superb in that game. You know, for Chelsea, he really put up a captain's performance in that game. So yeah, it actually boils down to game management, and Enzo Maresca did a very brilliant job. You know, managing that game. And like you rightly pointed out, you know, Chelsea is not a team that is known to have that doggedness when defending, but it was more like a case of you know, it stunk into them that first of all we are talking about, this is like the London Derby. This has to be one of the most anticipated, you know,
matchups
of the season. And yeah, and it's at Stamford Bridge in front of their fans. You know, it was more like a case of all the right things coming together. The extra motivation was there. You just saw that hunger and desire from Chelsea to win, you know, not to lose that game. And yeah, it really, really worked out for Chelsea. And then for Arsenal, and it was also, you know, down to the lack of clinicality and creativity from Arsenal again as well. Let's just say Arsenal did not do their best. Let's just say Arsenal did not play
like Arsenal
to the best of the yes, they did not play like Arsenal, and that also helped Chelsea. But regardless of that, nothing can be taken away from that super performance by Chelsea.
I know you can talk about this forever, but there was one person that stood out, and I think I'll just boil it down to two. There were two people that stood out, which was James and Chalobah. But what do you think about these two players' performance, especially a player like Chalobah?
Well, one thing people should know is, you know, Trevor Chalobah is someone that you should not underrate at any time. Maybe this might not be the best comparison, but I think Trevor Chalobah is more like an Harry Maguire in the sense of coming up for goals. So when you need goals from a defender, I think there are some names you would mention. Of course, you would have to mention Harry Maguire first when you need goals from a defender. But Trevor Chalobah is also someone that you can bank in. He is a, you know, normally we talk about having attacking fullbacks and you know, defensive fullbacks.
Yes.
Trevor Chalobah is a very offensive centre back. That is the best way to put it. Yeah, and he was actually very superb yesterday. You know, in his defensive duty, you really, really, you know, put up a very, very good job. yesterday, making as much as 38 successful passes in that game. His tackling was on point, and everything was just, let's just say, everything worked out perfectly well for him. And then in attack, he was really doing his thing as Trevor Chalobah. And then let's talk about the captain himself, Rich James, who, he really controlled things, for Chelsea. He controlled things for Chelsea. He was under the cosh because of, the fact that they were, a man down, but still,
Yes.
He kept it going and really controlled the game. But these two players, I have to say, they are very, very key for Chelsea. And I think it was amazing to see that at the start of the season, Trevor Chalobah was kind of released out on loan by Chelsea. And for me personally, I think that was one of the surprising deals of the season, because I was like, Chelsea are going to regret letting this guy go. But luckily for them, I think, they came back to their senses after
get him back.
One of their defenders, and they had to call back Trevor Chalobah. And ever since he came back, he's been a very crucial player for Chelsea and Enzo Maresca.
The principal thing, still talking about, we talk about the impressive part of players, but we also talk about the disappointing part of some players. And one disappointing thing that occurred was Caicedo's red card. How did this affect Chelsea? Take note that Chelsea, they were playing a 4-2-3-1, a mid-block. And some will say that a player like Caicedo leaving would change that. But it seemed like they decided to maintain that formation, and they actually played, to some extent, they played well. So what is your take on Caicedo's red card, and how did it affect the Chelsea side?
Well, obviously, we are talking about their anchor man. We are talking about someone that is supposed to be there to break the passes, to intercept, to make the tackles, to do all the dirty jobs for Chelsea, and he gets sent off in the 38th minute. Yeah, it's definitely not something that anybody wants, especially the manager, because you are now putting the manager under a lot of stress, and you are giving him a job to do at that moment, to think of what to figure out, right? And his teammates as well, putting them in a tight spot. But yeah, I think it's just one of those things. How often do you see a Moses Caicedo get red carded, and get sent off? It doesn't happen, very often,
Yes.
right? And the fact that it was, almost, I think it was even a straight red card, to be precise. The VAR was also involved and all of that, and it was a straight red card. It was a straight standing up. It wasn't just, Moses Caicedo style. That is probably the best way to put it. But then regardless of that, it really affected the approach to the game. It really did. Maybe without the red card, we would have seen, a more attacking game, a more open game. Maybe without the red card, that might have been the case. But then, with the red card, Chelsea had to switch things up. Bringing in Garnacho, at halftime, for just that, for that little bit of pace. When initiating the counter attack, and Liam Delap later coming in, around the 55 minutes for that, strength and muscle power, just to help Chelsea out a bit. But still, it really, really changed how both managers approach the game, because even for Arsenal, they weren't expecting a first half red card to Chelsea. So it was even also something that affected, Arsenal, because Arsenal now had to change their approach. Arsenal had to change their approach so that they could exploit a 10-man Chelsea. But unfortunately for them, it did not work out. So it was more like the red card affected both teams, knocking them,
and
off what they originally
I think there was one thing that we noticed in that match, and which was Arsenal had most of the possessions, but they couldn't just finish. And it also seems like over time Chelsea have also had that problem as well, because we could see in the Barcelona match they could have easily finished that match with 5 goals, but they couldn't just finish. So I think both sides should get a finishing coach or something, to help them with that problem. But let's move on to our next match, and I know that this one is going to get you really excited, Wisdom, and that is the 2-1 victory for Manchester United at Selhurst Park. What's your first opinion about this match?
But you know when you say it's gonna get me excited like that, a lot of people are gonna think I have a bias, right?
No. We know you are never biased. We know you are never biased.
Yeah, but it was a very massive victory for Man United. Heading to Selhurst Park, a ground that has haunted them for a very long time. Not just a ground, a team that has haunted them for a very long time. United were, before that game yesterday, they were winless against Crystal Palace in their last 5 meetings. In fact, the last time they met Crystal Palace, United ended up with a 4-0 loss. So heading into that game, it was more like you just expected a Man United disappointment. And for Crystal Palace, a lot of people felt like, okay, they were going to transfer the aggression of losing to Strasbourg, during the week, in the Conference League, they were going to transfer it. In Europa League, rather, they were going to transfer it to Man United and all of that. But kudos has to go to Man United first of all. Of course, they didn't have a good first half. Man United can never put up two good performances, for the 2 halves. Either they have a very poor first half and they have a good second half, or they have a very good first half
and a very poor second half. But in that second half, what do you think happened? Because they came in blazing hot. What's your opinion about the second half? What happened really? What happened?
Well, what happened in the second half was the players just realized that they needed to take the initiative. That was it. And that is what it has always been. It has always been about the players taking the initiative. It has always been about the players being more aggressive, being more intentional, being more direct. And that was what Man United did. They let Crystal Palace play their game in the first half. But the second half, I think they realized that, first of all, we're talking about the Crystal Palace side that, the players played during the week. So their fitness level might not be 100%. So why not take advantage of it? So, and the second half, United kept possession a lot. But it got to a stage in the game, United were just passing the ball around, just playing the ball in triangle and just having fun, right?
Yes.
So listening to Amorim's, press conference after the game, when he was asked about what, he did differently, he said nothing much. He just, had to help the players realize, pleasing. It gave me so much joy to see that it was Joshua Zexi, who put the equalizer for Man United. A very impressive, half volley to score his first goal in over a year for Man United, and then
Mount.
The wonderful lad Chelsea gave to Man United, Mason Mount, scoring for that free kick to turn the game round for Man United. It was a very, very big win. One that was very much needed, because after that loss to Everton, 10-men Everton, it raised a lot of doubts again, because heading into that game, United were unbeaten, and then they came up against Everton. Everton got an early red card, and you would have expected that, now Man United should run riot on Everton. But no, United were lackluster and lost to Everton. And heading into this game again, everyone was like, oh, Man United, here we go again. And it happened in the first half when Euro was completely off his game in the first half. In fact, he was the first to be yanked off. But another thing I've got to say before I quickly wrap this up is Ruben Amorim did a great job managing the game yesterday. He made his substitutions, early. He made the substitutions at the right time. And those were part of the things that, really had an effect on the game.
Okay. But some wonder, a Crystal Palace side that started very well, what happened to them in the second half? Was it that the Manchester United side just took the initiative and decided to play better? Or is it that Crystal Palace, they just fell short. What's your take on on Crystal Palace performance?
It was a gap because it was almost the same crop of players that started in their European fixture against Strasbourg during the week that started that game against Man United. So it was almost the same crop of players. So you would expect the players to get tired and to be fatigued, which was what happened in the game as the game went on. And Man United took advantage of it. Man United took advantage of it in terms of how they were moving the ball. Because United were just passing the ball around for fun, and normally you would expect Crystal Palace to put up a high press. You would expect Crystal Palace to chase the ball, to put United players under a lot of pressure. But they couldn't do that because, the players were trying to conserve their strength, because it's more like a case of the players were somewhat exhausted for Crystal Palace, and then Man United did not just care whether exhausted or not. We don't care. We just have to go and win the game, and that is exactly what they did. They took the initiative. They hopped, they annulled Casemiro as well. It was more like a case of Man United just stepping up in general, everybody, and then the introduction of Masraoui helped Man United, especially operating on the right-hand side with the attack that Masraoui was pushing forward, and then Mason Mount operating on the other left-hand side, and then Brian Mbeumo and Amad Diallo doing what they know how to do. It was just a case of Man United doing what they know how to do.
I know that this is another match that you can continue to talk about, but we've seen that Manchester United now, they've moved up the ladder, they've moved up the table. They are number 6 on the table, and the other side, they've fallen short as well. But what is your take on this? How big is this result for Manchester United's confidence? How does this affect Manchester United, and also how does this affect Crystal Palace sitting on number 7 on the table?
So just to update a little bit, United are 7th.
While
Crystal Palace have dropped down. Yeah, they've dropped down after they concluded fixtures of Arsenal and Chelsea yesterday, yes, and the other. True. Yeah. For Man United, really, what this does for them, like I asked, is actually a very big confidence booster. Yes, it is a big confidence because their next game is against the West Ham United that has been struggling, this season. So you would be expecting that, okay, Man United should pick up points in this game. I think Man United fans can grow confident as time goes by. Because you look at those games, they drop points. The draw against Spurs, and they lost to Everton. These are games that on a good day United should have won, but they did not win it, and it somewhat raised the question again of, can Man United actually go on and do this season? But after that performance against Crystal Palace yesterday, a lot of fans were like, okay, maybe this team actually means what they are doing. So against West Ham, and we're going to find out if they really know what they are doing, because one thing that is a priority for Man United before January is actually being in the top 4 before January. So if they are able to be in the top 4 before January, I think their confidence level is going to be even higher. Because that victory yesterday was very needed against the Crystal Palace side that wanted them for years. I think it was a very, very needed victory. And then for Crystal Palace, I think the season is still fresh for them. I'm sure the target for Oliver Glasner is to probably finish, in an European sport, and I don't think they are still far from that. By the way, the Premier League is still very tight, so let's just see how everything unfolds.
Okay. Well, we've spoken about the Arsenal Chelsea match. We've spoken about Manchester United and Crystal Palace. Between these 4 managers and coaches, which one impressed you the most this weekend?
The one that impressed me the most this weekend, I would say Enzo Maresca. For his game management. How he really controlled that game against Chelsea, and the way he actually set up his team against Arsenal, despite taking that red card, and how he really did not let Arsenal have their way. So I think I'm gonna give it to Enzo Maresca. Normally you would give it to a manager that won the game. Talking about Ruben Amorim, you would give it to him because he won the game. His players did what we asked them to do. Normally you would give it to the manager that won his own game. Yeah, so but then I think I have to give it to Enzo Maresca because heading into that game, in as much as Chelsea was a team in form or is a team in form, people still saw Chelsea as the underdog heading into that game.
Okay.
I thought that we went in there and played like the big boys that they are. Kudos has to go to Enzo Maresca. But after Enzo Maresca, then I would give it to Ruben Amorim.
Okay, well, it seems like our coach of the weekend is Enzo Maresca. But we're going to be moving on to our next segment. Our Wisdom, please stay with us. And that's our athlete of the day. Our athlete of the day is Nigeria's sensational forward, Ademola Lookman. Ademola was the star of the night once again as he produced the decisive goal for Atlanta in their latest match. It was a finish that showed confidence, intelligence, and a trademark calmness that has become his signature this season. Lookman's impact at Atlanta continues to grow. His movement off the ball, his sharp dribbling, and the way he finds pockets of space make him one of the most dangerous attackers. And every week he keeps proving that last season was not a fluke. He is the real deal. This latest goal pushes him further up the charts as one of Atlanta's most influential performers. Beyond the stats, Lookman brings energy, creativity, and leadership, establishing himself as a true match winner for the club and country. For Nigerian football fans, this is another proud moment. Ademola Lookman continues to fly the flag high in Europe, and his consistency, discipline, and finishing quality are why he is our athlete of the day. Wisdom, in 2 minutes, what do you think about our own Ademola Lookman?
Well, I still think the same thing I've always thought about him from day one. The fact that he is, a very outstanding and brilliant player. I mean, this season, he's played just 9 matches this season, and he has 2 goals to show for it. Most of those matches, he actually came in as a substitute, right?
Yes.
So he just finally, started getting, back-to-back starting, shirts. So yeah, you can see the quality he possesses. I mean, he also scored during the week. In their Europa League campaign, for Atalanta. So yeah, Ademola Lookman, we know the quality is God. I mean, I can go on to begin to elaborate and expatiate it and all of that.
You have like 30 seconds left. I understand. His quality cannot be overemphasized. Right foot, left foot, he's gonna give it to you anyhow you want. But one thing I have to say is his mentality. His mentality is top notch. Despite what he's been through, at Atalanta, still performing, still giving his best. That is what makes him stand out. And the Niger spirit, just there and doing his thing. But kudos to Ademola Lookman. He's very vital to Atalanta, very vital, and I'm glad that the new manager sees his importance and he's finally starting to reap the reward. Okay, fantastic. Well, that wraps up our sports show today. Chelsea showed grit. A point get after a red card. Arsenal will be frustrated they didn't turn control into 3 points. United comeback speaks to character and timely substitutions. Palace will rule missed chances and late lapses. Those are moments that make the Premier League unpredictable and brilliant. Thanks to my guest, Wisdom, the principal thing for sharp analysis. Thank you so much, Wisdom.
It was a pleasure, Tom. Always a pleasure to be here doing this.
Same here. I'm Araka Tom. Keep your comments and questions coming on our social media platform. On YouTube at Politics&BusinessTV.English, Facebook at Politics&BusinessTV.English, Instagram at P&B TV_English, X at P&B TV_ENG. And we'll put the best ones to our panel tomorrow. Stay with us, because this is P&B Sports. Until next time, bye-bye.